If you look up the definition of Jekyll and Hyde NFL seasons, you'll see a picture of the Philadelphia Eagles 2013 campaign, to be beyond question. After the opening Monday night game against the Redskins, everybody's talking about this new offense that's going to shake crap up and it's going to take the league by storm. Then the Eagles lose their next three games, and everybody's talking a bunch of trash about Chip Kelly and saying, I told you this wasn't going to work. You take that crap back to Eugene, Oregon, where it belongs. It doesn't belong here in the National Football League. And then even halfway through the season, the Eagles are 3-5, and it's not looking good. And then some stuff happened. They go with Nick Foles and they stick with him, and this team starts to really piece it together, find their flow, find their identity. They win 7 of their last 8 games. They go 10-6. They win their division. They come this close to beating the New Orleans Saints in the wild card round of the playoffs. This was an Eagles team that ended up having a pretty good season considering the season they had in 2012. It didn't look like it was going to be that way even halfway through the season. So, it was going to be important for the Philadelphia Eagles to understand that, hey, they had a good season, but they're not there yet, and they still need to make some moves and make some changes and add some pieces to the fold. And they did that this offseason. I really like the trade for Darren Sproles. You bring in that type of versatile type of, going back to the college system, the DeAnthony Thomas type of guy. He fits perfectly into Chip Kelly's system, will bring another dimension to the Philadelphia Eagles offense, and only having to give up like a 5th-round pick for him. That was pretty much basically a steal. Then other signings like Malcolm Jenkins to help improve the depth at secondary, a position of great weakness for them, especially at the safety position. And you look at their draft, bringing in a guy like Marcus Smith in the 1st round out of Louisville, somebody they hope at some point in time could step up and be that pass rush force as a 3-4 outside linebacker. You lose Deshaun Jackson. That was the big, kind of notable loss this offseason, and you try to address that by drafting Jordan Matthews and Josh Huff, 2 receivers. You re-sign Riley Cooper long-term. You bring back Jeremy Maclin on a 1-year deal. The Philadelphia Eagles did a lot of things that sit there and make you believe that they're going to be the class of this division and one of the real forces in the NFC come 2014. Looking at the strength of this team, obviously their offensive weapons. I mean, you've got LaShawn McCoy. You've got Jeremy Maclin. If he comes back healthy, he could play well. Riley Cooper, he had a nice season. They've got a nice 1-2 combination at tight end in Selleck and Ertz. Now you bring Jordan Matthews and Josh Huff into the fold. You trade for Darren Sproles. You bring him into the fold. This is an Eagles offense that I think can hurt you in a variance of ways all over the place, and it doesn't hurt to have Nick Foles. When he came in and he was given the job and they stuck with him, the whole dynamics of this organization changed dramatically. I mean, Nick Foles, you could have argued the second half of the season was the National Football League most valuable player. I mean, what did he have this past season? 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He played at a freakish level. While I don't expect him to play quite at that freakish level, I think he's a great fit for that scheme. As I talked about heading into the 2013 season, all the people talk about you need a mobile quarterback, I said that's not necessarily the case. You need a quarterback that can make quick and precise, accurate, timely decisions and take care of the football. And that's something that is definitely in the wheelhouse of a Nick Foles. I also like their offensive philosophy in terms of spreading people out and, striking quickly, creating mismatches for opposing defenses, being the instigator as opposed to the responder. And I also love their offensive philosophy of running the football. There's always this kind of, stigma attached to Chip Kelly's offenses that they seem to be based off of the pass, and it seemed to be that's what a lot of people expected in 2013, and that's not the case. Chip Kelly's a run-first guy, and his teams are run-first teams, and the Philadelphia Eagles can run the ball as well as anybody damn near in the National Football League. They still have some question marks heading into the season, and I'm not ready to totally crown their asses just yet. I still wonder where the pass rush is going to come from. Trent Cole had 8.5 sacks last year. I think Connor Barwin had 5. There's not a lot of dynamic pass rush ability out of their 3-4 defense, and they're going to need to get more of that, and I'm not sure if they have it there yet. I still have concerns on the defensive end about the talent and depth overall in their secondary. None of their corners are really anything to write home about. Sure, you brought in Malcolm Jenkins to play safety, but is he really that huge of an upgrade over what you already have? I still think the secondary is a bit of a concern, and I was frankly surprised they didn't address that a little bit more in the draft. There's also a question mark about how they're going to replace Deshaun Jackson and his production and contributions to that offense over the years. Now that he's gone and they let him go and he went to the Redskins, Riley Cooper's a nice player, but he doesn't do what a Deshaun Jackson does. Jeremy Maclin could do some of those things, but he's got to stay healthy. Jordan Matthews, Josh Huff seem to be guys that could help fill that void, but again, they're rookies, and rookie wide receivers don't always come in and make that big of a contribution. So it remains to be seen. It's a big question mark hanging over the Philadelphia Eagles offense. Looking at their 2014 schedule, it's tough, but it's not ungodly or anything like that. Just like everybody else in their division, they've got the AFC South and the NFC West. In terms of the NFC conference games that they have Carolina and Green Bay. So, especially Green Bay, you'd say tough, but Carolina definitely not impossible to beat by any stretch of the imagination. So the schedule sets up at least somewhat nicely for the Eagles. In terms of their keys to success for this upcoming season, well, first and foremost is playing in the NFC East, where I think they are clearly the class of the division. But they need Foles to play at least a somewhat Pro Bowl level. I don't think he has to play as well as he did last season, but they need him to play well still, and they need him to play like a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. They need him to establish that he is indeed the long-term face of this franchise as their starting quarterback. They need their offensive weapons, whether that be a combination of Cooper and Maclin and Sproles and Matthews and Huff, maybe Ertz and Selleck. They need those guys to step up and help offset the production loss that comes from waiving Deshaun Jackson. They need guys to step up. They need to get even more explosive and get more contributions all over the field. Their defense has to play better. They don't have to be great, but I think they have to at least be average or adequate, and they need to be able at times to make some of those key stops. This is never going to be a defense-first team, but there are going to be those times where they're going to have to make those key stops in those key situations. Maybe it's okay if they give up 21 or 24 points in a game, but can they make that big stop on 3rd and 4? Can they make that big stop on 3rd and 9 when they really, really need to? That's going to be a key thing to watch out for this upcoming season. And the other thing I will point out is a big key to their success is they got to play better at home. The Eagles in 2013 were almost world beaters on the road, and they were boo-boo at home. Hell, they lost their playoff game at home. So I was almost like, I wonder if they would have been better off playing the Saints in New Orleans. They probably would have beat them there. You got to be able to balance that out and right the ship a little bit. Nothing wrong with it being a great road team. The Eagles are one of the best road teams in the National Football League last season, but they got to play better at home. You got to be able to defend your home turf. And that's going to be key for them if they want to, still not only be the best team in the NFC East, which I think they will be, but want to be one of the best teams in all of the NFC, which I think they have the potential to be. Looking ahead to this season, I expect the Eagles to run away with the NFC East. I'm not trying to drink the Kool-Aid too much, but I'm just being realistic here. I like a lot of what I see on paper, even with Lane Johnson's 4-game suspension for PED use to start off the season. I think this is clearly the best team in the NFC East. I think this is a team that things are set up right, where they could sit there and be one of the real forces come playoff time in all of the NFC. I envision them going 11-5. Probably, actually, I'll go on record and say I think the Eagles will finish 12-4, and they'll run away with the NFC East. I think they'll end up with the first-round bye in the playoffs, and I think if you look at the NFC West and teams like Seattle and San Francisco beat up on themselves and the other teams in that division all beat up on each other, I think there's a very good chance that the Philadelphia Eagles, whether that's necessarily the best thing or not based off of their recent history, might end up with home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs. I know it's going to be an interesting year for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's going to be a lot of high expectations, and that means a lot of pressure to live up to those lofty expectations. But I do think this team is well positioned right now to be able to fulfill and meet and maybe even exceed some of those very high expectations.